Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. So we're going to talk about mathematical precedence now. Some textbooks call it BIDMAS, some call it BODMAS, okay? So it's basically talking about the order in which we're going to use these operators in mathematics, especially the 4 basic operators. And the order that you have to use is what we call the BIDMAS or BODMAS. So you can call it BID or BIDMAS, okay? So some textbooks call it BODMAS. So instead of having I, they have O here. So it's basically the same thing. So what it means is that you solve the brackets first, okay? So you solve the brackets. Then after you solve the brackets, so that means brackets things like that have a bracket sign. Now, after the bracket, the next thing to solve is the indices. All right, so we'll talk about indices or ordinals. All right. So things like, for example, the square roots, cube roots. Does that make sense? The cube roots, the etc. So all these indices, raised to powers, and the rest of it, you solve that first. Now, when you have solved that, the next thing you do, you now divide. Okay? After that, after division, you multiply. After multiply, you add. And after you add, then you subtract. Is that okay? So you do the bracket first. So when you, in an equation or in a question, if there's a bracket, you sort that out first. After the bracket, you now do the index or the powers or the ordinals. You solve that next. After you're done with that, you solve the division, then you multiply, then you add and subtract. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick some examples, okay? And I'm going to use the same example, but I'm going to just play around with the signs. I don't know if that makes sense. So for instance, let's say we have 20 plus 10 over 2 minus 3. Okay, so look at this. So we're having a add, divide, and subtract. So if you look at this, divide comes first. Can you see? So we have to divide first. So that means we'll have to solve this. So it's going to be 20 plus 10 divided by 2 will give you 5 minus what? 3, because you need to solve the division first. Now we also have addition and subtraction. So addition comes first, then we're going to add now. So we're going to add 20 and 5 together. So 20 plus 5 will give us 25 minus 3. Then finally, we then subtract. Then 25 minus 3, we're going to give us what? 22. Are you seeing this? So that is the first thing you do. You solve it based in that order, all right? So let's pick another example and just to play around with it. So now let us assume in this case, instead of multiply, we have, instead of addition, we have the multiplication sign. And instead of the subtraction, let's have an addition sign there. So let's say we have 20 multiplied by 10 divided by 2 plus 3. Now, usually, all right, your calculator, if you write it in the right way, the calculators can solve this, all right? So usually there's no really force about it now, but I'm just trying to show you what your calculator is actually doing, all right? So we have 3 signs here. We have multiplication, division, and addition. So multiplication, division, and addition. So we have these 3. So the first thing we do, we have to divide, then we multiply, then we add. So let's go. So we have to divide first. This is going to give us 2 times 10 divided by 2 will give us 5, then plus 3. Now, when we're done with that, after we divide, is to multiply, okay? Following the BODMAS, then we'll multiply 20 times 5, and that will give us what? 100, all right? Then plus 3, and this will give us 103. Are you seeing it? So you have to follow the order. Now, if we want to make this interesting now, okay? Now let's assume that same question like the last time, but instead we are going to have the brackets here. So let's say we have question 3, we have 20 multiplied by 10 over 2 plus 3. But this part is in bracket now. So that means if you go back, the bracket is the most, has the highest priority, all right? So that means regardless of the signs, we're gonna solve what is in the bracket first. So we're gonna go. Now in the brackets, we have both division and addition. And if you see, division comes first before the addition sign. So that means we're gonna divide first within the bracket. It's going to be 20 multiplied by 5 plus 3. Then we're going to still solve the bracket because the brackets have the highest priority. So it's going to become 5 plus 3. So you can see, although we have addition, addition is way lower than the multiplication. But because the addition is in brackets, so that means it's going to take the higher priority. So we're going to solve this in the brackets now. So it's going to become 20 multiplied by 5 plus 3, and that will give you 8, and that is 160. So you can see that although we had addition and multiplication, and we are meant to use multiply before we add, but because the addition sign was within the bracket, so we have to solve the brackets first before we multiply. So let's pick one more example, and we'll call it a day for now. And let's say we had 20 subtracting 3, this in bracket, and plus 10 divided by 2, this also in bracket. So if you remember, the bracket has the highest priority, so we have to solve the brackets first. So this is going to be 20 minus 3 will give us 17. 10 divided by 2 will give us 5. Okay? Then, when this is 5, so 17 plus 5, and that will give us 22. Is that okay? And that will be the answer for that. Okay? So basically, what I've talked about in this video is that these are basically the mathematical precedents. So you solve the brackets first. After the bracket, you do the indices, the ordinals. Then after you've done that, you now divide, you multiply, and you add and you subtract. You have to follow this particular order. It is very important. Okay? Okay. All right, so that is that for that. And I will talk about fractions, decimal, and percentages in the next video. Feel free to send me a message if you don't understand or you have a particular question you want me to clarify. You can message me directly. And also don't forget to subscribe and put the notification button so that if I upload a new video, you'll be the first to know. All right. I think that is that for that. I'm going to see you in the next video. All right. Have a nice day.